Welcome everyone to another Whaleshares Hangout. Today is December 11th, 2018. This is Hangout number 13, and each week we've been meeting up here in the official Whaleshares Discord to talk all things Whaleshares, updates about the platform, community interest, feedback, topics, arguments, all good things. So tonight we'll start as we always do by giving updates. Now, while we don't have any official updates of the platform itself, remember, we do have just kind of following through. We're still in that testing phase for the version 2. It's in beta right now, like a closed beta. And I believe we are still on schedule for sometime next week, maybe by the end of next week, moving that into the open beta stage. Still with a target of the beginning, 1st of January, maybe not for New Year's, but that first week of January, then opening it up to be live. So I think we're still on schedule for that. So we'll keep you guys up to date in the coming week as we go. And of course, as I always mention, be on the lookout always in the official Whaleshares account at Whaleshares on whaleshares.io for those announcements, and also in the Discord. So for the secondary announcement that we have, we've decided to turn over the weekly Whaleshares Hangout to the community. So instead of it being the dev team, launch team running the program every week, we're going to hand it over to Intelliguy and CeruleanBlue. It's going to be a community-based hangout, and it will work in a similar format. They're still hammering out the details, so you'll get an official announcement from them of how it will actually work, since it will be more their show or a community show. I believe they'll speak more to it also, but we're looking for other people to help as well. And we believe this is kind of in the best interest of the community itself. As we've mentioned, week over week, we're trying to, hand over the platform and everything related to it to the community in time. We already have the account activation process handed over to the top 20 witnesses. So this is a way of kind of giving one of the official programs over to the community as well, and allowing the dev team and launch team to kind of step back and, I guess you say, you can maybe listen and watch as opposed to kind of running it. So we'll still be there on the weeks that we have major announcements and stuff. Krista and I will be here to pass those announcements along to everyone, but we won't be the main speakers. I will be there every week to also record the show, and if they choose to have it streamed live, I'll stream it live if that's what they want. But in any case, it will be recorded, so we have it for the archives. The show will be, I guess, nonpartisan is the way they're going to say it. They're not going to take any one given side by default. It'll be an open community discussion where all sides, nonpartisan, until like I said. So where views from both sides of any given topic will be openly discussed with no, hatred towards one side or the other to start. People will be free to openly discuss things, kind of like we do here. In the second half of our show, we open up to community questions and comments, and just allow that open flow of communication to happen, because that's very healthy for the platform and the community. So they're going to continue that in their own style. So with that, I will hand over to Krista to give any community updates we had for the past week, and then we'll continue on with our questions like we normally do.
I'm actually not sure that I have much going on the community side this week. I know that we reached over 4,000 people on the platform, but I'm not really sure how much further it has climbed since then. So that's kind of a good milestone to reach, in my opinion. We made it to the other 1,000. The Discord is continuing to grow. I still see Whalebot pop up with his messages all the time that we have 5 new members. So it seems like everybody has been keeping the environment here nice and smoothly running. Lots of people have been stepping in and kind of answering questions. It's very appreciated. So don't come back to like a million DMs or a million tags when we get online. Yeah, I mean, that's really all that I've got to offer to you guys today. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot more going on. I will note that Intelliguy and Blue said that the show will actually probably be an every other week thing. But there will be somebody to chat every Tuesday either way. So maybe an official show every other week. And then maybe just like an after party type environment on the off weeks. but we will let them kind of take the mic and announce more about that as they're ready to. If they want to tonight, I'm fine with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super cool. I mean, just everything that we can do to kind of move this forward. Like we say each week, we are looking for people, like Blue and Intelliguy are doing, to kind of step up and take on different roles in the community, big or small. There's a place for everyone who wants to be involved and kind of make Whaleshares, their own. So definitely want people to step up for that. And I know over the last week, something that's been a hot topic both on the platform, even here in general, and in some of the other feedback channels and stuff. The issue going on, I mean, by name, Hagen, but in general about self-rewarding of posts and how the community can kind of step up and get involved and tackle these issues. Because, I know Krista and I do mention every week that, we try to give answers as best as we can, but we can't speak for the whole team. So it kind of becomes difficult in that way. But I know there's been two heated posts that have gone up over the last week or so. One was from Kenny and the other from Scipio. So, we could always discuss that as well. And some of the feedback that's been going on with that. I think it was Scipio, right? Or Bug IQ. I think Scipio just had some of the comments back and forth. So, I mean, we can definitely get into some of that topic if that's what everyone's interested in discussing this week. Um, as far as the official dev team goes, we've had discussions behind the scenes all the way up through the launch and even, still now on, how different things in the platform should be managed. And for most of us, it comes back. Yeah, I saw that, Kenny. Definitely over 100 comments on both of those posts, which is it's kind of crazy, which is good in a way. I mean, that means the community is actually responding and giving that feedback, which is what we want. How we handle these situations is, I guess, the broader issue that we still all need to hammer out because in the dev group and the launch team, you know we come across almost some of the same answers that we see people write in the comments about, well, if we just do this or we just impose this rule or make this code change, and we quickly have it followed up by, yeah, but we shouldn't be responsible for imposing those kind of rules across the chain because you have a couple bad apples that are kind of screwing over the system. So it's yeah, I can tell, guys, it's a delicate dance, and a balance of how we respond to this thing, either on the dev side, but also as a community. So if anyone has any thoughts, wants to tackle either two of those posts or the topic at hand, jump on the mic, drop in the questions, and we're ready to go. Let's have at it in a
Hey,
polite way.
Woodsy, like he said, he wasn't really trying to focus on Hagen, but that's what other people are focused on. That's the
Yeah,
main screenshot in all of the posts that I've saw regarding the issue. The dev team from the beginning has been focused on trying to find a way to combat that. But like PowerPics said, it's hard to speak for the community or speak for the dev team when we're just two individuals that happen to belong to both.
yeah. I mean, and it is tough because I know the majority of us might have come over from Steemit, so we get that kind of bad taste in our mouth from things that we saw happen over there, and I know a lot of us who are in the main community groups are trying to avoid a repeat of what happened over there. We don't really want to march down the path of flag wars just for flag wars, and then you have the return fire flag wars out of spite. Nobody wins in a situation like that. We've watched it happen to the Smoke Network pretty much get flagged to the point where they left the Steam platform. We watched EOS and Dan get flagged to the point that they just left the platform. You know, which is kind of nuts when you think about the man who pretty much created delegated proof of stake and wanted a tool for lack of censorship. Pretty much got censored off his own creation and moved to Medium, a centralized platform, to post all the updates for EOS before it launched. Then of course we had Whaleshares Community get attacked same way, from Ned and some other people who were burning all those people. So in the end, it really doesn't help the platform. If we march down the path of flag wars, in the end, that just drives people off the platform to their own new platforms, which is pretty much why Whaleshares is here. That's why Smoke has its own platform, and you know, EOS is doing its own thing. So
has anybody brought up the fact that Hagen has put more money into the platform than anybody else buying up WLS? And at the time, it was the dev team that were the ones that could power down the most, and he was purchasing their well tokens. So the dev team was the one that made the most off of Hagen, but nobody's bringing that part up. So no offense, but you guys made a lot of money off of him, but now you want to paint him as a bad guy to the community. And I don't think that's fair.
No, we definitely.
Well, you can't really say. We definitely hear you. I was gonna say you can't really say us guys because he didn't get his hand on either mine or PowerPics tokens. So if you're speaking as the dev team as a whole, then that's fine. But he's never used my KrazyCoin, and he's never.
I think it's addressing specifically the whale tokens themselves is where the major exploit was. Is all the stacking of the whale token.
And all the WLS that he purchased at the time when it was about 5 BitShares each, because he was the only one that was buying it at that time, or maybe not the only one, but he was buying the majority of the WLS at that price point. And when he stopped buying it, that's when we saw it drop down to below 2 BitShares each, because nobody else was purchasing it.
Well, the whole market's messed up, and our WLS went on the market for anyone who wanted to purchase it. I don't personally have a problem with Hagen because I don't know the dude. I'm not flagging him, but I'm also not rewarding him. He's not flagging me. He's also not rewarding me. That works fine for me as an individual. I understand that people have a concern with it, but I do understand that he was bringing monetary value, and I have brought that up in the past, and so has PowerPics that he was buying in. As far as the whale tokens go, that's part of the reason why they were taken off the market, so that people couldn't buy them.
Well, and I agree with that, but the thing is, everybody's pointing fingers at Hagen, but I see this as a distraction from a lot of the other stuff that's going on, like the fact that Blackman is sending 20,000 of his tokens to product reviews account, which I believe that is a garbage account that he's powering up himself. There's nothing review about those. It's a copy paste of basically the product descriptions, and so there's a lot of corruption going on, but everybody wants to point fingers at Hagen and say he's the problem, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed. So you can't just blame one person on it.
Yeah, I think people just see him simply because of that carryover from Steemit. You know, people know the name, they understand.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, he's put a lot of money into Steemit as well, and if he pulls out of Steemit, a lot of stuff can collapse over there. I don't think people realize how much invested he is in Steemit or in Whaleshares, because I don't think anybody has actually spent nearly the amount on WLS as he has, or on Steam that he has.
I'd like to interject here. Personally, I mean, as much as it is great that he is investing into the platform, I don't feel that monetary value has much to do with the argument, because, well, do we really want a bad investor? Just, like, okay, he's got money, so come let him fucking rule the place. Sorry for.
Well, monetary value does have a little bit to do with it, because what value does WLS have without some sort of monetary value backing it?
Of course.
I suggest at this juncture we, since this is the last show of what's coming from the dev and launch team, with these two, we stay for after party, because it's going to be one of those subjects that's not going to be easily put to bed, or not that it should, but it's going to be a wide debate that everyone's going to get involved in. So we can pigeonhole that for the after party. In the short term, I would like to ask PowerPics whether or not, as these types of issues were discussed, we don't have to know exactly, what things were said and not agreed on and stuff, but there must have been an awareness at early launch till now that how do we circumvent bad actors on the platform. Now, the flagging mechanics was one, so that we could avoid our flag wars, and that they couldn't just willy nilly be used, because when a downvote costs the same as an up or as a reward, sorry, a flag costs the same as a reward, it's easy for everybody just to start flagging each other for nothing. So I know that that was done. We probably expected more to have a bigger effect than it did. So is there other things that have been considered or are working on for something other than flags in the future?
Well, see, to be honest, a lot of the same responses that you see in some of the comments of these posts about saying, well, maybe you shouldn't be able to self-reward your own posts, or um, maybe the penalty should be different. Like, we all had those same discussions leading up to launch and even after it, but it always came down to the same issues, saying no matter what you put in place where you think you're kind of blocking one avenue, if people want to do things in a malicious way, they'll find a way to circumvent it. So why punish everyone on the platform and make life so complicated and difficult for everyone else just to kind of block a few people that you know are doing it? And I know Fuzzy's point of view that he's mentioned a lot, even when he came on the show a couple of weeks back, was, we don't want the platform like a place of censorship. We want people to be able to kind of post whatever they want, and we don't want to have that judgmental view of what constitutes quality content versus not. And of course, we all have that thing saying, well, even if I posted my own picture of me eating a sandwich somewhere, I'd take the extra step and say, here's me, I'm at this specific place, the sandwich is great, blah, 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 adding something to it so there's a little more value to the content, right? But that becomes subjective. So, in the main group, and even trying to follow Fuzzy's vision, it was to not have that kind of judgment on content, this and that, not have in place too many rules that restrict people's actions, not have too many things in place that penalize positive actions because you're looking to block a negative action. So everything kind of has that, yin and yang, two-sided thing to it, where we implemented as many features or changes to features as we thought were practical, to still make it a great social interacting place. And of course, with version 2 coming, we're hoping that will change a bit of people's viewpoints, of how they look at the platform, or maybe some of these things that happen, even as mentioned, that okay, there is investment behind it, so do what you want with your stake. We hear that a lot with people saying it, and there's always going to be people agreeing or disagreeing with that. And so, say, regardless of your viewpoint of that, if the platform changes in a way where it happens over there, you don't really see it, it's not in your local group of people or your network of friends and family. If it's doing what it's doing, but you're still able to do your own stuff, then live and let live kind of thing, as long as it's not destroying the platform like a cancer. So it's so tough to kind of put your finger on one thing or another, and continue. Of course, people always continue to grow doing those things, um, but it's like you heard the other side of the argument saying, if he continues to build it in some way that adds value or it adds liquidity to a market in a way maybe that helps us all long term, you have to have the give and the take. So, even myself, I don't have a personal answer to it. I know most of the dev team didn't have an answer to it because we didn't want to put handcuffs on everybody or be like this dictatorship that controls a platform. That wasn't really what we were looking for in terms of whale shares. You know, Other platforms have other ways of approaching things. We see, different ways of governance and doing stuff on Smoke. It just, every platform is going to have a different way of doing it, and in the end, we'll see how things hammer themselves out and which way was the right way. We don't see him over there in smoke posting, charts about unrelated stocks. So, we'll see.
Well, another thing to oh, go ahead, Chuck.
Thanks, Krista. Hey, to actually answer Intelligui's question in a bit, I once brought it up with the team that the downvote mechanic is whack. Like, I personally dislike it. I just think it doesn't like get the job done. I think if we could like maybe incorporate or have some sort of a get moderated button, or report this to I don't know, to report this to um, the scam and abuse team, which could be a group of people that could be selected and rotated around like once every 1 or 2 months or something. Uh, Something like that. I think a change like that would actually benefit a lot, to be honest. I like the mindset of having a downvote button to remove rewards, but I just don't think that it gets the job done of actually moderating or actually checking to see who's abusing and who's not. I think like with a group of people, maybe a team, a good team of people that would actually that love to check these kind of things. I know there's people that in the back end that love to see who's voting what, who's sharing what, who's doing what. So maybe those people could get together. We could bring some sort of team or some sort of something, and we could have this get moderated button, which would report that post to these people, and they check to see if there is any abuse or scam or etc. Um, Obviously, when there's people involved, there will always be the hey, these guys aren't cool thing. So we could maybe set a system that could rotate those people around, make it based on witnesses or something. We could I don't know, these are just ideas, guys, and that's the idea behind these shows, I think, to get with these ideas out there.
I brought that suggestion up a couple of weeks ago, but I think if you do employ that type of thing, you need to be able to reward these people that are doing that job, and it becomes an occupation.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think these people should definitely be rewarded for the work, since it does benefit all of us as investors in this platform, right? Because obviously there will be more value in the platform by having less abuse.
Well, and we have funds set up to be able to set up different sorts of projects like that at this point. They haven't been decided on how it will work, but it would basically be like a worker proposal to where people would, vote to allow uh that action to occur. So it's important to keep remembering that eventually the community will be the ones who have the say in these type of things. So whether that is through a worker proposal or through you guys getting together and doing polls and talking to people who are doing development, creating different tools for you guys, that's a important thing for you to keep moving towards, like remembering.
Yeah, and then I was just writing a comment there about when someone was asking, like, well, what would the action be? Like when Chucky was saying, okay, I have a team that reviews things. Well, I mean, that's the whole point. The community has to decide then what the action is, or you have to define what abuse is, and then what actions are taken against what level of abuse. So again, the community still has to take part in this, right? Like you're saying, it's very complex. Everything has to, I guess, come to votes. Like, eventually, like how witnesses are voted in, you would have this, I guess you want to call it dispute team or whatever, that have to be voted in. Um, I guess most likely maybe it wouldn't be witnesses, so you have that kind of separation of powers on the platform, but the community still has to decide what is abuse and what is an action for it, or what is not an action. Um, Once that governance model is kind of voted in, then that's the power you give to that team you vote in, and then vote out if they abuse that power. So it's a balancing act.
Well, and I mean, part of that is us handing over the show to the community to run so that, sometimes it feels like we're getting attacky, or you guys as the audience are being attacky, and I don't want it to feel that way. There's only so much that the dev team can do to mold into what it wants it to be, and then it's just going to be released, you know. So these are important discussions to be having, with or without somebody with some sort of leadership role coming in and saying, hey, we need to talk about this. So it's good that you guys are discussing it on various threads and in like impromptu shows in the lounge. That's awesome that those discussions are taking place.
Well, if the community is going to have its meetings and its shows on Tuesdays and its after parties on Tuesdays, that gives us plenty of time between now and January 1st, as you mentioned, for the new platform, to see if we can come up with something that might be incorporated in that. It's not a lot of Tuesdays left, unfortunately, but next Tuesday and the after party today is a first start.
Yeah. And that's true. You know, it's because it's like we say all the time. It's hard for Kirsten and I to put down solid answers because we're only two people out of a larger group of people, and that's why it's awesome, you know, for Chucky to kind of give his opinions too. And anyone else, you know, witnesses, developers, you know, jump in, give your feedback. But you know, for us, it's we have had a lot of discussion between most of us that it's getting to that point where it's time for us to kind of step back from being kind of the overseers of everything, and you know, the community's got to start taking responsibility. We've talked about it for almost 3 months now, so TikTok peeps.
Um, if you are going to establish a kind of rules or guidelines, I prefer guidelines to rules. Some guidelines, it might be an option that when people are signing up, that they agree to a code of conduct, and as the platform progresses, you can add items to that code of conduct that the community agrees on as a whole.
Yeah, we could even have like a conduct score. People that uh, would have really good conduct would have higher score, and maybe their flag would be like Hayam Snuffles was mentioning. Maybe it shouldn't be based off stake. Maybe it should be based off another weight, like maybe this quality score or something. You know.
Well, that was something I think I was talking about Kalaman with that. A star system that where everybody would start with 5 stars, and if you are bringing in plagiarized content, for example, well, you're going to lose a star for that. If you are just blatantly in like gang wars on the site and you're all just abusing each other and showing bullshit back and forth that nobody wants to see, well, yeah, you're going to lose another star for that. Um, if you lose 1 star, you get a penalty of something like 24 hours. You can't post or interact. If you lose another star, it becomes a week. If you lose another star, it's a month. If you lose another star, it's 6 months. After that, you've no stars left. You're gone. Um, the process to build them stars back up, well, I'll leave that to you guys to figure out.
Yeah,
Yeah, it gets kind of tricky. You
oh, go on.
On another note, if I can just quickly, I don't mean to run the show here, but is there any usability issues of the platform, technical issues that are being worked on while we have you guys all here? Anything that you're aware of that we might be feeling, or developments that are coming other than what's targeted for January 1st, so we can get back to development type updates?
I know that the image issue seems to be mostly fixed from my end, from what I can see, anyways. So that's good news.
Yeah, but as far as anything coding wise, no, the effort was just being put into version 2. So there's no no other incremental changes happening between now and that release.
Okay, and tokens are being sent back and forth through Rudex fine. Everybody seems to be happy with that, I guess.
Yeah, I know we had
Yeah, I heard of a
some.
couple issues last week, but they seem to resolve themselves with no further action needed. So I don't know if it was the blockchain doing something funny or Rudex themselves or what.
Yeah, I think that was all on the BitShares node issues and stuff. I know they did some updates over there and changes to different things, and that might have caused delays or backups in the system.
Indigo, did it eventually go through though? Yeah, so it looks like their support desk hasn't been super busy if everything got fixed. So I know that it likes to check the nodes every time I log in.
Yeah, and then kind of back on a similar topic, like I read one of the comments. I forget exactly who it was from, but they had mentioned. What was it in the post? I think it was a full post. I'll have to go back and check. It was early this morning. I was reading it, and the suggestion was even about, at one point in time, an account can almost become deactivated, where the person can still say remove their stake, power down and cash out, but all the functionalities of the account basically be shut down. You can't reward, you can't share, you can't comment, you can't post, etc. And it's one of those things where it sounds like a cool thing, like, yeah, someone abuses the system, you shut them down. It's great for sock puppets when you prove that that's what it was, like, sock puppet accounts just voting in a circle and stuff like that. But again, it comes back to that, is the community ready to set those kind of precedences that, you shut down one account, you just gave somebody the power to shut down accounts, which becomes kind of dangerous. So yeah, I've seen that floating around as well. So I mean, these are definitely issues that everyone's going to have to discuss and talk about and hammer out. But we can't do it in a mean way. If someone gives a thought or opinion, you take it with a grain of salt. Everyone comes from a different background, a different point of view, and we're not all going to agree on everything all the time, and that's fine. But we just have to make sure, even in the comments on the post and stuff, that even if you strongly disagree with someone, and you're like, hey, if you're standing in front of me, I throw you through the window. Don't respond like that. Just say, great, I see it, I understand your point of view, but I was thinking this. Because remember, even though we're having disagreements, whether it's here or on the website, other people are seeing the platform. New people are coming into the platform, and while we still have that trending up there, which is a nightmare over on Steemit, it's going to become a nightmare over here if those posts up there all just argument posts and flag war posts. So if we keep our conversations and discussions civil, even in the comments and discussions on people's posts, people at least see they're coming to a civilized platform where people can have conversations, without turning it into a troll fest and all that kind of crap. So just be civil with people. Remember, everyone has their own feelings, their own point of view, and we don't need to attack people. We just have to have open discussions about it. That's what makes
Well,
it.
yeah, and it's easy enough to just get pissed off at something and decide not to respond. You have to remember that many things that you're responding to really don't affect you at all, and a lot of the time, or if they do affect you, maybe they could only potentially affect you but aren't currently affecting you. So why waste your energy feeding negativity, because that's all it's going to do. Somebody's going to respond every time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know myself and others even talk about it. We have our stake almost a bigger issue than some of what people are considering maybe abuse of the rewards pool is the lack of use of rewards pool. So even for myself, if I see my tokens are not being used to reward enough, I go in at night and try to manually curate posts from the new list. Um, a lack of use of the rewards pool is just as bad as an overuse of it.
Oh, absolutely. I worry about that myself. I finally found somebody to manage my contest account, so that account will start getting used. So that makes me really happy that that mana is going to get used most days of the week now, because I'm horrible with with not using my mana. I just don't find the time, and that's the other thing. I don't find the time to post either. So maybe my rewards could be a lot better, but I don't have enough time.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too that I noticed. We see a lot of the, the posts about stats, about who's getting rewarded what and when. And while it's interesting to see the data, in the long run, I don't know how beneficial it is to us all, say mentally or health-wise of the platform, because it almost breeds this kind of mentality of jealousy or resentment towards other people. Um, you know, in Facebook and other platforms, you don't see the stats of what everyone else is doing. There's not some account that just throws up, well, this guy posts 22,000 times a day on Facebook and is getting, 2,000 likes from a fake Facebook account. I mean, it doesn't matter. Life goes on. So I think that, we have to find that bridge between how much information is needed for the general community, how much information, is needed for, say, the dev and those people working on community issues. It's just we see a lot of things on these kind of crypto-backed platforms that we don't see on traditional social media platforms, and I don't know if that just causes more anxiety and stress for everybody, and kind of breeds these arguments that might not need to be there. I'm not sure, but it's definitely or what are we 2.5 years into this experiment since Steam started, so still got growing pains across the board.
Deranged wanted to address the fact that there are, I don't know exactly how he worded it, but like Contest and My Crazy Witness are both in the top 20. I mean, I can't affect how people vote, so that's really the only thing that I have to say about that. If people want to continue to vote them both, they'll continue to stay there. You have your vote, I have mine, and Chucky, Crystal, Vicky, they all have their own votes too. So I would encourage more people to vote for witnesses. That would be the way that I would, try to combat that, I guess, if you're that concerned about it.
To clarify, I think Contest was more of a community account, wasn't it? It was less of a let's see if we can make it rich and power it down and get all the bit shares from it.
Yep, it hasn't been powered down. I actually powered it up 10,000 WLS in the beginning. So that's what I did. I used my stake to power it up. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you beyond that, Deranged. I didn't make the account. Acrid actually made it, and I was going to take and voice it and use it, but then it was gifted to me from him. So it wasn't even mine to begin with. I didn't make two witnesses, I made one. So that's how that went about. And I've never been deceptive about it. Everybody's always known that I'm the one that's using it. So if people want to vote it, they can vote it. If they don't, they cannot. I'm never going to tell anybody. And it will be getting used. I hired 2 people who I'm paying out of my pocket, not out of your pocket, but out of mine to run it for me. So.
Well, also, I was under the impression the Contest Witness was to support contests, right?
Correct. Basically, it landed in my lap without me expecting it to, landed completely in my lap. I tried to keep up with curating with it, and it just didn't work that way. So I put out a notice 2 months ago asking somebody if they would take over. I was able to hire 2 separate people that don't know each other. I think they're from 2 different parts of the world because they're online at different parts. And they should start doing something with it this week, which will include curating, 4 to 6 days a week, the mana down to 80%, and also running a couple contests. So maybe I'll get a contest out a week too, but I'm trying to stay optimistic, but I'm not positive on that.
No, that's right. I remember it was just in passing, but you were mentioning something about that earlier today. You were talking to someone trying to get a group together in charge of contests. That's good. I think a lot of the reason people like coming here is because of all the contests we have going on regularly. And I mean, the promotion room, people actually go through. We have events going on regularly. You don't really see that on Steam at all. And I don't really think there's anything wrong with that either. I mean, is contest actually doing anything bad with the power that it's gained, or is it just giving contest power?
Yep, it hasn't been using its mana at all. And I understand that's a concern. That's why I tried to find a way to rectify it. That's the best I can do. I'm just one human. So here we go, right? I haven't been powering it down. It's just sitting dormant. I mean, so that's where it stands right now. It's just been powering itself up and making itself more powerful. The problem I have with Indigo Ocean and self-voting, limiting it, is you'd have to limit it for everyone, which I'm not against it either way. If there wasn't the ability to self-vote, nobody would, right? But it gets a little tricky. So that's, a really heavy topic that people would have to discuss. I'm kind of torn on it. I try not to do it too often because I realize that I'm under the microscope all the time. And I'm aware of that. So therefore, I'm not going to do things that I wouldn't want other people doing.
If I can jump in there on the self-voting, you can't really do away with self-voting while you have people using tokens to vote on their post side, or it's kind of like contradictory.
I like the idea of cutting the amount of allowed daily self votes, or also just cutting the amount of allowed daily posts, period. I've always kind of been a fan of that. I kind of feel like if you can't say something in 2 posts a day, or even 3 or 4 posts a day, um, I don't understand how anybody has that much time.
Well, I proposed before you force vote to yourself in a 24-hour period, you get 100%. Second one 75, third one 50. And if you're doing more posts than that a day, I think you're not really putting out quality content, are you?
Well, again, quality is subjective, right? So what I find to be quality, you might not find to be quality. Um, I do kind of like the idea, a roted setup here. There really needs to be limited to repeat voting in general. So if I voted for you and Alex and Crystal, I would have to wait and vote for 10 other people or whatever before I could vote for you again. That might be a way to go. I'm not really sure. It's hard for me to go through and vote most of the time because I feel like people are like watching my account. Oh, she voted them twice. But since I'm not doing my duty and voting every day like I should, I keep saying vote, rewarding people every day like I should. It gets hard because sometimes I'll see like 2 posts in a row from the same person, but they're like 3 or 4 days apart. So
Yeah, everyone has to
I
remember
don't
too.
really have 8 other accounts, by the way. That was just Irish humor.
Yeah, I mean, people have to remember too that the platform is still trying to follow, Fuzzy's original visions of kind of like live and let live. You get into the platform and your stake is your stake, and he said it several times himself. Coming here on the show, just saying, you should be able to do what you want with your stake. Want to vote for yourself, vote for yourself. You want to vote for other people, vote for other people. You want to post 100 times a day, you post 100 times a day. It's that's kind of what he said over and over and over again, and that's kind of the way the platform was built, to kind of give people that freedom without having to worry about censorship. Yeah, you want to flag, then you flag. You open your own can of worms in that. So he said that. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing, Deranged. It comes up because even though that's the way it was originally set up to be, um, you know, everyone still has their preconceived notions of, say, what is fair, what is acceptable, what is correct, things like that. So it's going to come up that way, especially when the platforms are still open, like the parent platform Steam, the way it was. We're all in that same mindset. You have these main feeds where you're seeing everyone's content, or if you're on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you don't see other people's stuff unless you're already in their network of following or a friend of a friend, things like that. So there's there's that degree of separation of certain posts of what you can and cannot see. So, if this was a Facebook scenario, no one would see what some of these other people are doing. It would just happen over there, but we have blockchain transparency and all this, and then some people make a post about it, shows up in trending, now everyone sees. So it's a mentality, that we all have to adjust to. It's still new, this whole blockchain social media platform. So the way it operates, it is what it is. This is why we're all trying to work these issues out. Perhaps it's just individual mental blocks.
Mandel was asking if there was a way to implement one person, one account system. I mean, that's what we're trying to do as far as the top 20 witnesses voting in accounts, kind of taking a look at them and deciding whether or not they're sock puppet accounts. But really, without, doing something like hardcore, like making people provide a driver's license picture and a phone number, and it just gets a little crazy. And then when it gets, and when it gets to the point where there's like 100 accounts a day being created or whatever as we grow, then it's going to get even crazier to try to manage things. So all in good time, baby steps, right? Yeah, phone numbers are easy to falsify. Smoke.io actually wouldn't take my real phone number, so I had to go to Google Voice and get a fake phone number to use to sign up.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so then that's the thing. We always come back to the same thing where, we're all, those of us who have, say, a certain mindset, you want to have this kind of utopian kind of website, but as a fully decentralized platform, without any kind of centralized rules or guidance, you really can't achieve that. So we end up kind of going in circles in all these discussions. And we've seen Alex type it a lot of times here in many of the Hangouts. No matter what you think solves the problem, someone with coding skills will find the back door to get around it. And their way of finding a way around it might have been 10 times worse than what they were doing before you tried to block them. So, we've run in circles a lot with these discussions, and that's why it always comes back to the issue where we've talked about it. Fuzzy said, like, you don't want to restrict people more than you need to just to go after a few things you think might be wrong, but you're penalizing everyone else for making it so complicated that nobody wants to use the platform because of that. So it's either centralized or it's not. And if we're choosing to be decentralized and open and transparent like this, then governance is kind of a very tricky path to walk. If from the beginning we said, no, this is going to be semi-centralized, almost like you see the Warbly network is coming out, it is openly a semi-centralized EOSIO variant, right? But from day one, everybody knows that. So there's not going to be a problem with those people using it because it was said from the start. If we start off here saying we're decentralized, we're open, we're transparent, this and that, then all of a sudden start mandating so many rules and restrictions, say on chain, and starting to centralize it, then everyone kind of rebels against that, saying, "Wow, the hell with this shit. We're going to go find another platform." So these are all the things that, as these discussions go, that everyone has to kind of keep in mind.
Right. Snecky and Indigo are both bringing up the fact that they don't really want the wild, wild west. Well, you can implement changes on your own as a community that stop abuse, that stop people abusing the system. That's fully within your right. You, but that's part of using your stake how you feel fit, right? So if people take and say, we don't like this behavior, we're not going to reward it anymore. Eventually, for the most part, on the smaller accounts, those people are going to stop doing those things because there's no reward in it for them anymore. And even if they don't stop doing it, they're not taking anything from you because they have no reward. So, Jamie came across an account the other day. This person had went to lengths to get pictures, macro photography pictures of bees. And she had to dig and dig and dig to find the images on the internet because they had went like far into the internet to find these pictures. I would think that after not getting rewards on their posts, that's an activity that they will stop doing, because why are you going to take the time to make something look all pretty that's not your own work if everybody's just going to flag you or take their rewards away?
Yeah.
That's what I think too. You educate each other.
Right. Also, I mean, there's some things that just can't be hard coded right now. Us humans, we just have like our ways of like exploiting systems that are working. Hey, this is meant to work like this. How can I exploit it and see how we can make more money off this? Let's check. And unfortunately, the human thought and every single possible exploit for the system can't be strictly like implemented in the code. There's some things that just can't be directly in the code. I mean, it would be awesome if we could get all these things implemented directly in the code, but there's some things that we need to do off chain as a community as well. I think if we focus more on that aspect of it, we could, point towards better solutions, I'd say.
I'd like to say that off-chain and different front-end interfaces are the way to go for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things in Intelliguy that do need to be on chain completely. But there's just some things that are way too complex to code for blockchain. I'd say I'm not a coder myself, but I somewhat understand. Um, so maybe having off-chain governance, having different front ends, etc., is definitely the way to go.
I think that's maybe what the community is going to explore as we go forward with the community talks. Is we'll pick a topic each week or each show to hash out, and one topic can be centralization versus decentralization will be the topic. Anybody that wants to submit something to that, we can talk about it and discuss it. And you could prepare for knowing what the topic of the week is going to be. And then the following week, we could do something different. Talk about front end interfaces. Who likes what and what front ends? Who's working on a front end? If anybody's run a testnet front end, it'll just all be about front end stuff. That way, we can kind of gear our conversations towards topics instead of always revisiting the same topics back and forth again. We can save that for the after parties.
I was
Perfect.
in agreement. Go ahead, buddy.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just thinking Intelliguy. I was totally thinking the same thing you were, although I wasn't thinking it exactly like that. It's a good idea to flip back and forth. It gives people a break from all the heavy sometimes. Carry on, Chucky.
No, I just wanted to say that Intelliguy is right. I mean, organization and tackling these different things and topics, each one individually and with a purpose, is definitely the way to go.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to address before we end the recording?
I wouldn't mind saying one thing, I think.
Go right ahead.
So my recent post that was alluded to a little earlier, talking about banding together as a community and deciding what to do with what we feel are seriously abusive accounts. I think that's fair. I only have the tools that I have, right? I have a flag. You have a flag. We have an upshare. We have an upshare. I never said Hagen's name in my post. He could certainly infer that I was speaking about him, but he did respond to me without me reaching out to him, and I'd like to share his response with us. Here it comes.
I guess that's your joke.
No, it doesn't look like I can post it. It's an image.
Oh, I thought you were making a joke about him being silent to you.
No, I have 3 screenshots of him downvoting me 10 or 11 times on Steemit last night. That's his response to my post.
So he's taking things off chain. I saw that too. I investigated that.
So
Well, it also seems like he's doing what you were threatening to do. So then it kind of becomes
Yeah, you poke a
weird
bee, you're gonna
situation. It becomes a weird situation, right? Because you were threatening to do such a thing and he just went ahead and did it.
yeah, that's fine. And I'm going to continue to organize with friends in the community who would like to combat abusive behavior. It's my right to do that as a community member, as it's his right to defend himself. If people don't want to implement like a 3 times penalty for self-voting and stuff like that, then the community, you look at his comments that he's here to take over, and I'm eating up all the WLS. Here I come to be the biggest swinging dick on the platform, and no one's going to talk about doing something about that, and everyone think that's cool. That's fine. I don't think it's cool, and I intend to do something about it.
People are talking about it. People are doing things about it. But you can't expect that maybe you didn't say his name, but obviously people know that he's doing similar things to what you were addressing in the post, and you can't speak out openly about that and not expect somebody else to also do what they want to do. It sucks that he did it off chain. Not really sure why he would do that. I personally am not a fan of flagging. I try to do it very minimally. So I mean, that's my opinion on it. I probably will never get behind your flag army for that same reason. I can't say I probably will never. I will never, for that same reason, because I'm not a fan of flagging. I don't think it's any sort of answer.
So that's what you think it is? It's a flag army? Did you read my post, Krista?
I certainly did. And the thing that indicates to me that it is a flag army is the fact that if people don't do what we say, we're just going to flag them to 0 forever. That creates a flag war mentality, in my opinion, whether they're harmful flags or not, because sometimes people just flag to flag. I've had people do it to me on Steam. All it did was piss me off. It didn't do anything to affect my rewards. It just pissed me off. And that's the type of environment that I see a group like this breeding. I'm not going to openly come out and attack your project or flag because of the fact that I'm not a fan of it, because I don't like flagging, which is exactly why I wouldn't join.
So what do you think about the rest of the post? Do you think it's just a flag war? You don't think that there's community thought into this and reaching out to people and trying to have a conversation with them? I mean, he had his conversation already. Obviously, he doesn't want to talk about it, but I would want to talk to him about it.
Just as PowerPics wrote up there, the way that it is worded kind of sends out a dangerous message. That's exactly the whole problem that I have with it. The beginning of it seems like a fair bet. Try to reach out to somebody, try to talk some reasoning into them. But if you don't do this, then we're going to do this to you. So I don't know. And it also kind of said something to the effect of, if I believe that, if witnesses didn't support it, that you were going to make sure they weren't in the top witnesses anymore, which is like super attacky language, in my opinion.
Are
But,
you?
hey, you do what you got to do.
Wait. I don't want to ask if you can read. I said no such thing.
Oh, I absolutely can read.
I said no such thing. I said I would request that witnesses whose tokens were used to upvote posts that were on the dangerous community members list, that they would remove those rewards. Are you absolutely with what you just said?
Hey, you tread carefully here, buddy. Remember who owns the Discord, eh? So I wouldn't personally attack me here. It'll just get you kicked. But I would also say
Discord.
that you can do what you want to do. I'm not going to personally attack you in any way, nor have I, which is why you will not attack me here. It would depend on how many members were in your group, to whether or not I would feel comfortable with the actions that are eventually taken. So if you have a group of hundreds of people versus a group of 10 people, I would feel a lot more comfortable.
Well, and that's where I'm headed with it. So it's slowly being built. I want to know what the community thinks. I want to know what they want to do. And in my opinion, there's a wolf in the henhouse. There's a fox in the henhouse, and nobody wants to do anything about it necessarily, or some people do, some people don't. It's not going to be taken care of from a dev perspective, as far as I can see. So, what I take exception with as a community member is telling me how to use my flag. Saying, oh, we don't want this on trending. We don't want to send out the wrong message. Sending out the wrong message is letting someone like Hagen make the comments that he has, that he's planning to, take over the platform, and he's climbing that leaderboard. And if you want to be the next Bernie Sanders, come and get me. You know what? If I'm putting in the kind of time that I'm putting in here, trying to build quality and value into the blockchain, then someone who's just tearing it down, does not seem like a bit of an affront to you?
Well, he's not tearing it down. He's doing other things on the platform too.
Yeah, I appreciated his 1% vote a ton.
Yeah, I appreciated yours too when I got one. But I mean, he's as far as I know, he's getting involved in the D stores, and that's going to help the D stores help a lot of people open up shops that they can trade globally. That's a really good thing, and that's not looked at.
D-Stores is completely ignored on Whaleshares. Only because Hagen.
Yeah, well, it's ignored now, but I tell you, as soon as you launch that, people will take advantage of it. It's easy for it not to be anything right now because the store's not there. I can't put anything for sale on there. But as soon as you let me put something on sale for there, and I can sell a bargain down price because you're going to pay for the shipping for me, hell yeah, I'm going to use that, dude.
And where do you think the rewards for those are going to come from?
That's what I'm saying.
What accounts do you think they're going to come from here on Well?
That's what I'm saying. Hagen is supporting that, and I don't know. I haven't heard of anybody else supporting it. Maybe you do have other supporters, and I've not been around for the past week. But yeah, Hagen is doing good things here as well, and because he's doing it behind the scenes, and he's not in the chat room saying, "Hey, listen, I got this great project. I'm involved in this. Let's all help this out." Yeah, people don't see it. So it's because people don't see what he's doing that he's just giving the bad name all the time. He's up in his power, yeah, but he's doing good with it. Yeah, and that's
I can tell you one thing: it's not the dev team that's supporting these stores. We approach them, and it's not them.
We're also not supporting any other projects. So I don't know what kind of attacky vibe you want to get going on, but I mean, it's not just your project, it's any projects. Individual members of the dev team support various things when they choose to do so with their own stake that they either bought in to gain or earned for working towards the launch of the chain. So I mean, that's my opinion on that.
And also the fact that each person in the dev team is an individual person and they have a say. It's not like the dev team is a whole and they make decisions as a whole. Each one has their own mindset behind it. I think these stories is pretty cool. But not everyone thinks that.
I think the dev team should really just be developing the blockchain. And as far as the platform goes, let it go the way the dev team is letting it go and the community take over. I just think we should be very careful on the things we say and trying not to become a dictatorship. That's something we're trying to get away from in the physical world. So why bring it in?
All I want to say is with these stores, we're trying to bring actual value and utility to WLS, because right now the only value to WLS is on Whaleshares, like the platform itself. And we want to give actual trading value to it.
I mean, that's how most, well, that's how most chains like this work, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Okay, in the spirit of the live show, you could probably I don't know how to do it. I make a submission that we end it here and we continue to after party. I'd like to leave it on a positive note that there's something else that's coming for January 1st. It's not that long away. I'd like to thank the dev team specifically about all the contributions they've made. I understand that this isn't a this was launched. It's up to people to volunteer or to decide for themselves if this is the chain for them, if it's not the chain for them. There's only so much you can build before people arrive. And then you kind of hope that the community gets involved and engaged and has an opinion to help a majority, kind of come up with the best solutions to problems. So, it could be quite frustrating, I can imagine, for a dev or a launch team to build things, launch things with a hope and a dream and their own financial investment to do so, to create it in the beginning and hope that it will fly, right? So more projects, it could be more chains. We see Wiku doing it and other chains trying to do it. Nobody's done it perfect yet, because if there's a perfect solution, it would already exist. So I just, I don't want, the problems of today to dissuade any of the hard work that's gone into Whaleshares, and I hope we see more of that and we attract more developers and more people willing to lend a hand, and we keep striving forward. So that's just what I want to say, and I'll be here for the after party if anybody wants to say anything to me.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly kind of the way we all feel about it. I think we've mentioned it, several times before, even on these hangouts, that we were following a vision, trying our best to deliver on it, and just getting it to the position where we wanted it to be before we handed over to the community. So yeah, I mean these things all have to come up, but the dev team, you know, in itself was never really here to be the dictator or the overseer of the platform and all things that happened forever. The plan was to build it, get it to a position, and hand it over. And even those of us who are here every week, even some of the witnesses who are also part of the dev team, or associated with, that's why you hear us say it a million times. We try to speak for ourselves, but not for the full team. And we're trying to hand this over. We don't want to do all this on our own all the time. That's not the purpose of a decentralized platform. So I agree totally with what you just said, Intelliguy.
I think Intelliguy had great points there. I also like what PowerPics just mentioned, decentralized platform. So decentralized autonomous platform. I'm not sure if everybody knows. It took me quite a while to understand what a MASDAQ actually was. I'm going to type it out so that I don't have to say all of these huge words for you. Maybe someone else can take the spotlight for a sec.
Yeah, that's cool. So what we'll end up doing then is I'll stop the recording. We'll bring this hangout to an end and we'll move on to the after party. So I just want to thank everyone for joining up again this week. Great turnout. And be on the lookout for the announcements from Blue and Intelliguy for the new version of the weekly Whaleshares Hangout. All right, so I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.